Hello and welcome to Expedited Category number 4, a presentation by Solutions IRB. My name is Cassidy Nose Cable, and I'm really new to the IRB world too, so we're going to be learning this together. Before we specifically dive into Category number 4, let's talk about what an expedited study is. Expedited studies are studies where the research presents no more than minimal risk to subjects and involves only procedures listed in one or more of the 9 expedited categories. Again, out of those 9 categories, today we're going to be focused on category number 4. Now, one important thing to note is that expedited does not mean fast. Though at Solutions IRB, we do get these done very quickly. Expedited in this case refers to a level of review rather than speed. When it comes to the different levels of review, there can be a little bit of confusion. So let's talk about expedited studies versus exempt studies. Exempt studies are listed as less than minimal risk and fit one of the 8 exempt categories. Whereas expedited studies, like we just mentioned on the previous slide, are listed as not greater than minimal risk and fit one of the 9 expedited categories. So the big difference between those two is how close they get to that level of minimal risk. Exempt studies are going to be well below minimal risk, whereas expedited studies can be right at minimal risk. They just can't go above it. Some examples of this would be an exempt study could be research with de-identified data or anonymous surveys or research conducted in things like classrooms. Things where the risk is really low, an anonymous survey, you're not getting any personal information from your participants, so that's going to be really low risk for them. Whereas an expedited study might be a survey on a specific group and their characteristics and behaviors. So in that, you're going to be getting a little bit more details about your participants versus those anonymous surveys that would be in an exempt study. That's a good comparison between the two. Now again, the big difference between expedited and exempt is how close they get to that level of minimal risk. But what is minimal risk? Minimal risk means that the probability and magnitude of harm or discomfort anticipated in the research are not greater than those ordinarily encountered in daily life or during the performance of routine physical or psychological examinations or tests. To kind of put that in layman's terms, it essentially means that the risk to your participants are no higher than risks that they would encounter in their day-to-day life. This presentation is specifically on expedited category number 4, so let's dive into that. Category number 4 is defined as a collection of data through non-invasive procedures routinely employed in clinical practice, excluding procedures involving X-rays or microwaves. Where medical devices are employed, they must be cleared or approved for marketing. Some important notes here is that you cannot be doing procedures that involve anesthesia or sedation, and if you are using a medical device, you can't be using that device for anything outside of what it's already been approved for. Let's go over a few examples of non-invasive procedures that would fit under expedited category number 4. Physical sensors that are applied either to the surface of the body or at a distance and do not involve input of significant amounts of energy into the subject or an invasion of the subject's privacy. Weighing or testing sensory acuity, magnetic resonance imaging, electrocardiography, electroencephalography, thermography, detection of naturally occurring radioactivity, electroretinography, ultrasound, diagnostic infrared imaging, Doppler blood flow, and echocardiography, moderate exercise, muscular strength testing, body composition assessment, and flexibility testing where appropriate, given the age, weight, and health of the individual. All of these procedures are non-invasive and would therefore fit under expedited category number 4. An issue that we see occasionally here at Solutions IRB are expedited studies actually needing to be bumped up to a full board review, and there are several factors that can push an expedited study up to that higher review level. For expedited category 4 specifically, if you were testing new uses for previously approved medical devices, That would be something that would take your study from fitting into Category 4 and bumping it up to a full board review. Because remember, you can use medical devices, but you're not allowed to be using them for any purposes other than what they've already been approved for. At least not allowed to do that and still fit into that expedited category. Other factors that might bump you up to a full board study is if you're working with vulnerable populations. If you're doing any of these non-invasive procedures on prisoners, for example, that's a vulnerable population and that might bump you up to that full board level. Really, just anything that's going to take the risks to your participants above that level of minimal risk. Because remember, ultimately for all expedited reviews, they can be no greater than minimal risk. So any part of your study that would bump that risk above that level is also going to bump your study from an expedited study up to a full board level. Thank you so much for watching today, and if you have questions or want more information, feel free to visit our website at www.solutionsirb.com, or you can send us an email at correspondence@solutionsirb.com. Thanks again.